From temporary Studio 5, deep in the heart of Madison, New Jersey, it's CAS Chats, the podcast dedicated to all things CAS. And now, here's your host, a guy who sounds a lot like me, school social worker Mike Shagrew. Well, thank you, unnamed announcer guy. This is episode 6 of CAS Chats, and welcome to you wherever and whenever you're listening to this. This is an exciting episode. This is our first episode in the remote learning environment, and also our first video episode. There's a lot of stuff going on, and the world is a crazy place right now. Thought it was a good idea to check in with my peeps, my CAS Chats listeners. Let's see. The Central Avenue School Community Bulletin Board. This Friday is our first remote spirit day. It's going to be Beach Day. This was a suggestion given to Mr. List by a student. So this Friday, March 27th, is Beach Day at CAS. So goggles, swim gear, beach towels, beach chairs, sunglasses, floaties, anything that says beach to you, snap a pic and send them to the CAS PTO email, which is caspto@gmail, and they'll post those photos. This is going to be the first of several spirit days that are generated by the student body and approved ultimately by Mr. List. But looking forward to that spirit day this coming Friday. That's about all in the community cork board, the Madison CAS bulletin board. I thought today that we would have a brief episode on talking to kids about COVID-19. Your kids are aware of it, obviously. Your kids know it's out there. They know kind of what's going on, but they probably have questions. And I have had several emails about what do I say to my children. So I thought we could start just kind of orienting everyone to how we talk to kids about COVID-19. If you're listening to this on audio, please be aware there's a PowerPoint presentation that I'm paging through as we go, so you can go back and look at that. But all the information I will give you in the audio version as well. I'll spell out the website names and that kind of thing for you. All right, let's get into talking to kids about COVID-19, the news of the day, obviously. The biggest thing about talking to your children about what's going on in the world is to be prepared. When you're talking to an elementary school child about any issue that's difficult or that can be anxiety-provoking or that might be uncomfortable, the most important thing that you can do is be prepared and be ready as the adult. The world is crazy right now. There is a ton of uncertainty for everyone. And so it's completely normal to be uncomfortable and nervous and worried, okay? But when you're talking to a second grader, you need to be ready for that. Research is so important. And the research is not because you don't know what to say, because all of you instinctively know what to say to calm your children and reassure them. But it's important that how we say it, okay? There's a bunch of websites that are great. There's several, actually. I'm going to give you 3. But there's several websites out there that are very good at giving you information about sort of how to frame talking to your children about what's going on right now. So the first, believe it or not, is the CDC website, cdc.gov. Government websites, their reputation is they're clunky, they're hard to use. I have to say the CDC website is awesome, and it has a page just devoted to how to explain things to children. There's also NASPonline.org. NASP is the National Association of School Psychologists. So it's NASP as in Peter, online.org. They also have a dedicated page. They also have a page that's linked to that. That's a one-pager PDF that you can print out if you want and kind of give to a family member or a spouse as you're getting ready for your conversation. And that's developed by school nurses and school psychologists in collaboration, and it's great. And there's also a website called Kids Health, kidshealth.org. I rely on them for a lot of information. And what all these things will give you, again, it's just what to say, but most of us need a little bit of orientation about how to say it. And all three of these websites will kind of orient you. They'll give you some verbiage. And for me, at least, it makes me feel more comfortable when I kind of refresh my memory about different things before I am presenting. If it was something in your regular job or the regular course of events, you kind of know how to do it instinctively and it's second nature. But this stuff it's complex, and we want to know what to say and as importantly, what not to say. Okay. Once you're prepared, the other key feature is to be calm and reassuring. I mean, that is the overwhelming impression that you want to give your kids. And that is the message that you will communicate to your children, both verbally and non-verbally. You want to send a message of calm. You want to send a message that everything is under control and that as a family, we can handle all of this. And I mean, as a family, I mean, truly as our CAS family. You have your own families. Then you have the CAS family. And so between your family and your teachers, that we can kind of handle this time. Okay. No one, knows you better than your kids. And they pick up on your worry and they know you really well. And so you want to deliver this message in a calm and a reassuring manner. And it's easy to focus on how you're delivering those words when you know exactly what you want to say. Okay. And I've suggested this with all manner of difficult conversations. It might be helpful to rehearse what you're going to say with a spouse or with a friend, with a sib, or even in the mirror, just so you're ready, or even just to yourself, kind of let the words kind of come out and feel comfortable with how they sound. Be age appropriate. Okay. We all know that the way that you talk to a fifth grader is different than the way you talk to a kindergartner. That's pretty common sense. But another thing to do is to avoid, jargon. Use simple words. The best authors are the ones that write very simply and present their ideas very simply. Jargon really has no place when you're talking to a kid. Okay. And regarding the virus, you can explain that most people that get this virus, they feel like they have the flu, they feel like they have a common cold, or they might not even know they have it. They might have symptoms that are so minimal that they don't even know they have it, and that most people will get better. And you can also say truthfully to your kids that the virus seems to not affect children much at all. Even if you present this in the best way possible, your kids are going to have questions and you need to be ready for them. Okay. Give kids space to share their feelings. All right. And give yourself space also to kind of take in their question and think about it before you answer. Okay. The best thing to do, no matter what, when a child asks a question, is validate that question. Try to validate the feelings that are behind that. Okay. And you can say, gosh, that's a wonderful question. I can tell that you're really paying attention to what we're talking about. Here's what I think about that. Okay. I understand why that might make you nervous, or it seems like that has you worried. I can tell from your face that, you see you're a little concerned about that. Okay. It's normal to be worried about that. I'm listening to you. Oh, I hear what you're saying. That's a great point. And then also, don't be afraid to say, I don't know. Real leaders, they say, I don't know when they don't know. And then they tell you how they're going to find the answer for you. Okay. A real leader might say, I don't know, but then might follow it up with something that they do know. Okay. And we'll kind of get to that in a second when we talk about, what we can do to keep our families safe with this current state of affairs. Okay. Pay attention to what your kids are seeing or hearing on TV or online. Okay. Even accurate news, it can be scary, especially with what's going on now. I mean, you're hearing some awful stories that are real, and that can be scary for kids. So, be careful with what they're being exposed to, especially when they're in front of their Chromebooks and maybe you've got the radio or the TV on, whatever. You also want to give your kids some control. Okay, so when I talked about good leaders say I don't know, we don't know the extent of the transmission of this virus. Okay, we don't know how long we're going to be doing remote learning. We don't know how long we're going to have this social distancing, these policies in place. So there's a lot that we don't know, all right? But we do know how the virus is spread, and we know how to mitigate that spread, okay? We can help kids feel in control of their environment, remind them that washing their hands is the easiest way to stay safe. So tell your kids that, listen, your job is to wash your hands, and your job is to wash your hands and sing the ABCs to yourself twice, softly, please, in your head, or Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Secret, it's the same song. Okay. Remind kids that it's their job to stay healthy. So getting lots of sleep is part of that. And also give your kids some ownership when it comes to keeping your house sanitary and clean. I know a couple of third graders, they call they have a cleaning ritual, and they call it the Rona ritual. And they go around and they wipe all the door handles, and they believe it or not, they kind of get into it. So some of our kids, they find comfort in that. They find comfort in taking part in keeping everybody safe. Okay, and that gives them some ownership, and they feel better that way. Okay. And lastly, stay in touch. Okay, keep checking in with your kids. They need time to process. So do we as adults. So you'll have a conversation, you'll think about it, and more questions will come up. All right. So you want to keep checking in with your kids, making sure that they're cool, making sure that they're not too worried about things. They're going to worry. We all are. So you want to keep checking in and not letting worries fester and turn into something else. If you let a human being jump to conclusions, 90% of us jump to the most negative conclusion you can think of, and kids are no different. So keep in touch with them that way, okay? When you're trying to generate conversations with them, use open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are questions like, how are you doing? Or tell me how things are going? Or how was your day today? You want to avoid closed-ended questions like, did you finish your reading assignment? That's a yes or a no usually. You want to ask questions that are going to facilitate a more complex response. Okay. And look, if your kids don't have questions, or if your kids don't want to talk, don't push it. Just circle back with them in a little bit. Same goes for adults, and same goes for older kids too. If they don't want to push, if they don't want to talk, don't push it. Now, that being said, it's a balance, right? If you go for a week without talking to your teenage kid, that might be a problem, but teenage kids are notorious for the one word answer, right? How was school today? Fine. How was work today? Fine. How's your homework going? Fine. That's what they want to do. They want to answer you with as little information as possible. But you'd be surprised. It often doesn't take a lot of open-ended questions to kind of get them talking, unless they're not in the mood. Okay. And then again, just kind of pack up your toys and go home, save yourself for another day, and circle back with them. All right. As always, I am available to you for any questions, any guidance that you might need. The email is shugru, SHUGRUE, the letter M, at madisonnjps.org. All right. So thanks for your attention to our first dual media, video and audio. Actually, tri-media, video, audio, and Google Slide. Does that count as a media? Anyway, thanks for watching and listening to this historic episode. As always, CAS Chats was created by me, Mike Sugaru, and Kimberly Barron. Megan Peterson is our creative consultant, and as always, our executive producer is Tom Liss. Stay safe, everyone.